Hi Manish, welcome to Speakeasy with Dheeraj Sinha. Great to have you on the show.
Thanks, Dheeraj. Excited to be a part of the show today.
Amazing. So, Manish, I am curious. I want to start from the beginning, right? Amongst so many categories, right? You've chosen to go after the beauty skincare category, and one of the hard ones, right? No, I'm not saying that anything else in India is very easy, but one of the really hard ones. What excited you about this at the beginning? I mean, I'm not asking how you're feeling about it now, but what excited you about it in the beginning?
Yeah, so Dheeraj, obviously, it's not one of the best categories to come and compete with the large FMCG folks who have built the business for century now, right? Uh, Obviously, we were the part of the internet revolution, and when we talk about the internet revolution in this country, is the era of Flipkart and Amazon. And we knew about that it's going to be one amazing platform for being a level playing field for young startups, entrepreneurs to come and build businesses. At our end, we started health and we got into beauty a little late. We started nutrition as the first entry to what we are today. That was in 2030 early 13 early.
Yeah,
And those were the days where Indian consumers wouldn't part away with money
yeah.
till the time they had the product right in front of them, right? So we have gone through those phases of how do you build consumer trust online, and those are the periods where if you ask me, that was the golden period of the internet, right? It was all about how you could be tactical, understand consumer trends, needs, a little bit more transparent. Uh, because you had an ecosystem which was virgin at that time, right? So we identified at least health as a place where it's young India who wants to look, feel good, young at a young age. Less players on the nutraceutical side. That's where we entered. Post that, obviously, you get into nutraceutical where it's a heavy claim business. You eat this pill, you'll see results in 20 days, 30 days. And myself being a failed entrepreneur prior to what I did, I said I want to build something which has a legacy and something which is here for long. And that's when we also straddled again from a health and from a nutrition business to a beauty business, right? We're the first Indian beauty brand to bring a affordable price point on sulfate free, paraben free, which is now a hygiene
Yeah,
across
yeah.
20, 30,000 brands, right? So we always knew that, if and I used to speak to a lot of folks at Amazon, and they used to say, Amazon beauty में कोई innovation नहीं है. Yeah, I thought, why not? There's the internet. You got a good chance to just go and list a product. Consumers will find a need for it and buy it. So that's something what we looked at. I think health and beauty is a great space to be. There was a revolution of clean beauty across the globe.
Yeah.
I was seeing that happening in the West. Thought that's a white space in India. Let's go for it, and that's where we built our credibility of being a natural, safe to use product. And we also kept the brand name Wow, right? Anything you do has to be Wow. Whether the product's awesome, packaging is awesome, you got to do that. So that is something what we thought about. And in health and beauty, the gross margins are amazing, right? So
Yeah.
why not to do it? But that was the era that Amazon gave you that platform. Amazon, Flipkart said, okay, now you can just list your product, have a supply chain of 4 warehouses, and supply to your consumers. So that's where it was. But always the vision was to make something big, and that's what we are still in that route. We're not reached where we want the objective, but really excited to be in a category like this.
Yeah. And 5, 6 years down the line, so obviously, Manish, when you got in, I think during the pandemic, ROAS was relatively easier, and one of the jokes really is that the whole Facebook Google trick is to funnel all the VC money out through the startups, right? Because the cost of acquisition has gone really high, as you said, 70,000. So where do you think is the story now? Because started versus legacy brands, right? And now you have legacy brands on one side, and you also have the whole long tail of internet age economy brands on the other side. How are you reading the market at this point in time now?
So obviously we were in the golden era. When I say golden era, I think 2015 to 2019 was the golden era, right? Those
Yeah.
are the days when Amazon never charged you for advertising. We used to say it used to be a haram for them to take money for advertising. We will, customer bhagwan hai, we will give them only what they want. So I think that game has changed rapidly over
Yeah.
2019. Obviously, we go raise money for Facebook and Google. That's a joke always what we do, right? Because we empty our wallets there dramatically. But the gay ecosystem has changed and it's dramatically changed. For new age brands like us, we thought, this is going to be a party which will be here forever. Continue with the performance marketing and juice it as what you could. But I think now we are again coming into an era where traditional brand building is the need of the hour to go back to, right? So now, whichever brand straddles in those direction quickly, have a good shot of continuing their marketing engine to fire for a long time. But the games have the I can tell you one thing: the ecosystem has dramatically changed
Yeah.
post iOS update in May 2021. The game has
Yeah.
changed, and we are living in a new world. I think we were the one company which did, for selfish reasons, we grew in the pandemic.
Yeah.
But now you're in a phase of an internet fatigue where consumers are tired of buying online. But looking at also what globally trends are happening is you're seeing retail and online, the line converge
Yeah.
towards becoming a lot, going back to the online era over the next 6 to 12 months. So it's a very interesting phase. You get that big bump, and now you have the internet fatigue. We are either in the bottom of it or around the bottom on that phase. But if you ask me, the game's changed. ROAS is not sustainable.
Yeah.
We ourselves as a company have are straddling and looking and pivoting at traditional marketing. So that's the reason why we're also aligning with you on how
Yeah.
you build our brand book for the next 5 years, what consumers look for us. So I think that's very important that you realize the real new and take
Yeah.
actions from there.
Yeah. We've had that experience. For example, I remember Echo about 3 years back, right? I mean, our cost on performance was shooting through the roof. And the moment we built air cover, right, our cost of performance went down, right? So
Right.
there are proven models that you build air cover, you build preference at one end, then the conversion part of the funnel becomes a little light, not as light as we would like to be, but a little
Correct.
light, right? I think, but there are also advantages, Manish, right? I mean, I've traditionally been building traditional brands with Unilever, P&G, etc. And there we've taken 10 years, 15 years, 20 years to build trust. The advantage on your side with brands such as Wow is that in a short span of 5, 6, 7 years, right, these brands have caught consumer fancy, right? I
Yeah.
mean, look at Aman and Boat. I mean, 5, 6 years, one of the leading brands in the country, top five probably in the world, and so on and so forth, right? So, what are the principles, if you could talk about, of building trust very, very quickly? Because the traditional marketing theory has said it takes 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, global heritage to build trust. But how do you think you guys have managed to build that part?
So Dheeraj, this is the power of the internet. Do remember, I can't mention competition names, but I think you'll be smart to understand non-core FMCG, two sizable large brands uh, took 28 to 29 years to become 100 crore brands.
Yeah, yes,
And in today's digital world, you break those barriers in 18 to 24 months. If you got the
yes,
right product fit and the right consumer offering. So those things have changed. But do remember, for you to reach 500, 600, that same
yeah,
playbook won't take you what you took you from 0 to 100
yeah,
or 100 to 350, 400. So every time we break these barriers, you hit a wall, you
yeah,
consolidate, look at how do you penetrate through that wall. That's going to be our process to become something large. So there's
yeah,
nothing which is a straight line. You're going
yeah,
to have a lot of
yeah,
ups and downs.
yeah,
And it also depends on a founder, how what his aspiration is to grow, right? At our end, the internet is so important to build trust, right?
yeah,
The consumers buying you with just a image of the product, no look and feel. Reviews become very critical.
yeah,
Your customer experience becomes important. Your customer care becomes very important. I think these are
yeah,
some of the new era
yeah,
where you have these kind of leeways to make something
yeah,
large with
yeah,
something which gives you a good launching pad.
Yeah.
And I'm in one crazy thought process that I think brands like us are not a brand yet. Consumers will try us for 10, 15, 20 years,
Yeah.
and that's when we become a brand. So we're still in
Yeah.
that phase of consumers trying us out, right? So
Yeah.
I'll have to be very humble enough and being honest that I think that's the right outlook for businesses like us. That if
Yeah.
you sustain that 10 years, 11 years journey, I think that from there is when you start picking up tailwind. But that journey is a pretty tough one.
Yeah, but also Manish, the role of SKUs, right? I remember with working with Unilever, Marico, etc. We would our NPD pipelines would have minimum of 3 years of gestation, right? We'll do product research for a year, concept research for yet another year, comps research for the third year, and finally we'll launch a variant, right? But I mean, look at Wow, right? The spread of SKUs is fantastic. The choices are fantastic. How are you seeing that spread? I mean, is it too much for consumer to make sense of?
So,
Yeah,
so Dheeraj, great question. Cost of failure online is cheaper than going offline, right?
yeah,
You can experiment small. You can take a small batch. You can understand your com. You can understand everything else on your trials on that small batch you can do. And that's only a good leading indicator. As a company like us, we have never used Nielsen. Our own data
amazing.
pipeline is good enough, right?
Yeah,
So that's the moat what you build, right? You understand what lot of trends and analytics, what you do, what's your next big trend for the next 5 years. So being very honest, digital is a place where you launch, you understand your consumers, you get your feedback. Cost of failure is much more lower online. You start with a very small batch. If it does well with a stipulated time, like at our end, however good we think about products doing good, faad dega, wo kar dega.
yeah,
6 months, if it doesn't make the cut, we kill the product.
yeah, yeah. Because you can afford to do that, so you're pretty much doing real time research.
Cost of failure is very
Yeah,
small
is
online.
yeah, 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 and therefore experimentation is high. And talking about omni-channel, Manish, right? I mean, at one end we're saying, oh my god, from digital to physical, and physical is a completely different game, right? The
Oh,
the di-
completely different.
the distribution network is still the
we
same.
are
Yeah,
we are obviously, when we start, I got to be honest, we all think, it's damn easy. Yeah,
yeah,
online फाड़ दिया, offline तो easy. Offline's a cash guzzler.
yeah,
It needs infrastructure. It's people dependent.
yeah,
You're fighting in a dusty store with so many brands.
yeah,
It's a completely different ballgame, and that's the reason why you're seeing us also work relentlessly with you guys, is because we need to build brand
yeah,
and be present in a consumer's mind. We're still a product company. We're not a brand
yeah,
yet, and that's where we're going to be working over the next 5 years. So just giving a view is that online game and offline game is a completely different beast.
yeah. Do you also realize that the setup and the infrastructure, distributors being spoiled by legacy players, is also a very different ball game than a digital online, much more fair play game.
Yeah, but even distributors want something new. Distributor
Right.
want high margin products like us. We are forced to give more margins out because
Yeah.
we want them to stock you, right? So it's a chicken and egg,
Yeah.
right? But giving you a fair point of view is India's changing, and I think
Yeah.
across the ecosystem you'll see a lot of disruption. But we are seeing over the last 18, 21 months the larger legacy guys coming and fighting back. They are fighting back on innovation, their marketing pipeline, their moats have become as good as ours. So we have to the pressure of reinventing new age brands is going to be very critical. So I think the honeymoon period for ours is over.
Yeah.
I think this is a time when resilience of calm-minded professionals, founders, of how do you see through these. We have only seen the good. We
Yeah.
haven't seen the tough
Yeah.
ones, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's going to be a testing time for us, right? So it's going to be interesting, right? You want to be
Yeah.
in a place where it's challenging for you.
Yeah. 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 Switching gears to where do you get the market from, right? The whole tier two, tier three, the whole Bharat story, right? How's that looking for you? I mean, do you feel that that's a real story, or is it overhyped? Because I mean, we work with many brands, and honestly, right, there is no 1 billion consumer in India, right? I mean, for most brands that we work with,
Yeah,
after
yeah, I agree with
25,
you.
30 million, it just peters out. I mean, where is the
I
purchasing power?
I think you're 200% right. I think that's where we all tap out. Those are lovely for Excel and presentation that we are 1 billion economy. 1 billion population. But I'm just giving you a view is that I agree with you. But let's be honest, tier two, tier three is where we also is where our strength is. Also remember one thing, those cities are not having the access to great brands.
Yes. Yeah.
So just give me a view is that loyalty is something which is huge in these cities because one is they have got less accessibility to good products. Second is they are a little bit more loyal than a tier one consumer who's always flirtatious. I'm in a big camp that tier one, tier two, tier three. We are in a stage, and let's be honest, it's an amazing time in India to be a consumer,
Yeah.
a dreadful time to be a founder and a brand in this country. The loyalty is at the lowest in this country, right? They are just flirtatious, want to try something new. But eventually, I like to look at patterns. I'm seeing in the West, there's a lot of consolidation. Consumers go back to the products what they like after they flirt around. But just give me a view is that I think this decade is going to be Indian consumers. It's going to be a nightmare for Indian founders.
And how do you see the idea of value, Manish? Because I was talking to Anand Luni of India Quotient some time back, right? And Anand's point of view is that India is market for 500 rupees sandals, right, or 100 rupees lipstick. That's where the real hockey stick will open up for the larger India that we keep talking about. And
Right.
his whole point was that from now on, VC money will chase that segment. But that's also very hard to deliver, right? In terms of a paraben-free, SLS-free product. So how do you navigate pricing versus quality? Where do you see that equation lies in today's market?
So remember, India is the land of the cheapest Coca-Cola. So I think the starting and ending point answers it for you there, right? You yourself said 25 to 30 million are those consumers where you after post that you tap out, right?
Yeah,
I think it's a very tricky situation to be in. Price is extremely critical in this country,
yeah,
right? Price nahi hai to loyalty nahi hai. So you have to balance it. So that's the reason why we positioned ourselves as neither being mass or neither being luxury.
yeah.
Because luxury country में चलता नहीं है.
Correct.
Mass में तो then you really have to give a consumer a substandard product, and that is not something what we are passionate. I love innovation.
Yeah,
Sometimes I get slack from my board saying that you give 110% to the consumer, you don't look at the P&L, right?
yeah,
But Indian consumers want 80%. They don't want 100. They don't value the 20% what you're giving them.
yeah,
And so our strategy is very clear: be in the center, premium mass, be aspirational, and give him a good offering point of view what you want to give him, right? So I think pricing is very critical in this country. I think it's in our DNA. It's not that we can't afford. Right? We have been pampered and spoiled for choices for as a young age, right?
yeah,
I myself, right? I value money from point of view on what I buy. And I think it's the same with India. So I don't think so we should blame the Indian consumer. I think we have to it's a different consumer need and you got to price it accordingly.
yeah. But you
I think
going
pricing
for,
critical.
but you going forward see say another say a brand variant at a lower price point, a Maybelline to a L'Oreal kind of a strategy.
So for us, we have in fact gone the other way around. We're going for a super, can't say in the luxury space, but a super premium.
Right.
We just launched Nature Derma. You can just go to naturederma.com.
Yeah.
It's the first Indian biome skincare brand. It took us 2 years to build. So again, from a rule breaker brand, which used to launch products and brands in 3 to 6 months, we have gone to rule followers. So it took us 2 years to build that. So that's against our DNA. But we are looking at more is tapping into those consumers who will pay more for great products and great quality. Mass market karna tha to they don't need founders like us. We are real entrepreneurs. We have to give value to a consumer. We have to also give value to our balance sheet. So that gives us a kick. But we'll always look at the premium mass consumer as a playing because you got digital. Digital is expensive to acquire consumers too.
Yeah.
So that's in our DNA. But if I can build a team and build more founder type of entrepreneurial individuals in the company, I'm happy to open one mass market brand too. But at our end, we'll continue to take or try to tap into the cream consumers.
Yeah, because that's where you can bring in the role for innovation and quality.
Correct.
And new age. If you do, Manish, talk about 2 or 3 big winning points, parameters, success formula for new age brands. From your perspective, what would that be, and especially in your space?
See, I think product fit is critical, product quality, product repeat. I think these are some of the metrics which you have to follow. Also, remember that one thing is what I can at least. I think the question you should ask me: what would I have done better from day one? Right? I
Yeah.
think I should have invested in the brand piece earlier than where I was. Right? We were bootstrapped, so whatever dollar you were spending, you have to ensure that you make
Yeah.
green
Yeah.
into everyone. Right? Then we got invested. Then we chased brand building growth. You may massacre your P&L.
Yeah.
I think if you ask me and make it easy about metrics, I think invest in brand. Once you get a quick read about consumer traction, liking, and be consistent over it. So if you ask me, those are some of the parameters.
Sure.
If you ask me, I could have done. I didn't do it,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I can't be the right judge and come and tell you that I should have done
Yeah.
that way. I think
Yeah. Yeah.
some of the places you have to start building brand early. Some people don't think about the value,
Yeah.
what that helps long term.
Yeah, I think one of the things I have also learned, I mean, done a lot of work with traditional brands, but with new age brands, I think you also have to build a brand in a way that it delivers the business.
Correct.
So when we think brand in Amazon or when we think brand in Spotify, we also measure the brand with the downloads it gets. So it's not just pure, some rara emotion which comes and goes nowhere, because you don't have that affordability either. I mean, if I'm
Correct.
spending 150 crores on IPL for a brand, I better get 50 million.
Correct. But I think in those ages, I think I've learned it. I burnt my fingers over the last 2 years doing that. I think consistent advertising, consistent brand building is much better than doing your hits, if you ask me. So these are my
Yeah,
successes and failures, what I'm sharing.
yeah,
We are in our journey. So
yeah,
I think these are something which are very critical. Be consistent on what you're doing. Go
yeah,
early on your branding. Understanding. Once see you'll online will give you a good read of consumers. They're consumers at the end of the day.
yeah,
And that's something what you have to replicate and with the vision that you will want to be everywhere. So
yeah,
I think very critical if you ask me some of the metrics and playbooks, I would say understand your consumers before launching, post launching, understand traction, time of velocity, customer metrics, and then start looking at if I have any of these green shoots sitting, start also investing in small way with branding consistently.
yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Switching gears a bit, Manish, a lot of my founder friends crave a lot about talent availability, right? And that game is also changing a bit with some bit of easing out in tech, thankfully, right? There was obviously a time when it was crazy, right? I mean, people will turn up, not turn up. You'd keep your fingers crossed. What are the learnings? How have you managed company culture, people, talent? What are the learnings at those parts?
I think see talent again. I think I don't want to blame the era. It's I feel it is more of the hunger what we had at our time
Yeah,
to what the new digital youngsters coming on board. I think there's a little bit of more of catch up if you ask me from there. So remember, we are FMCG, we are digital.
yeah,
You're always looking at getting talent which is young.
yeah.
It's always a hurdle. So you met my leadership, or at least
Yeah,
the quality what we have.
yeah,
It's not easy to get individuals like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
That only comes with still a founder going and pitching them the story, long vision,
yeah,
kya karenge. Unfortunately, we still don't get talent by merit. You have to still
yeah,
do it on personal relationship, personal confidence. But I think it's not only the tech. I think you will see a recalibration over the next 2 years across all sectors in this in India, because I think there's a lot of froth. I think the CTCs have gone ahead couple of decades, if you ask me, from where we are,
yeah,
right? Though FMCG still will have less impact because it's a high gross margin, more predictability, but everybody will have to recalibrate. I'm very confident about it. At RN, we're already thinking in that direction. Some large FMCG players, though it's not in the news, is already recalibrated 2-3 quarters back. But I still feel, the hunger of uh, our era of individuals, right? To where we are seeing the new talent coming on board. I think it's more of digital era. घर पे काम करेंगे. We'll keep it only focused to what we know. We'll not try and experiment. That talent pool, I think, is going to be something which we'll have to keep a very clean eye to watch for the coming decade. It's critical, right? Seeing also some interesting data on talent. You know, maybe this is off context, but I'm reading this and I'm seeing this what's happening in the US and Japan, right? What eras like us, we made more money than what our parents did.
Mm.
We are now going to be coming to an era where our children will make less money than their fathers did for the next couple of decades, right? It's
Wow.
something which is happening
Yeah.
in these in these two geographies, and it's clearly because of also we will also go into a territory where companies might not be able to give those kind of CTCs.
Yeah.
AI will be taking over,
Yeah.
less dependent. So you are the next 2 decades, if you ask me, is something which is scary. What's happening in the US and Japan? Japan's on
Yeah.
it since last 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So my scary part is going to be is what talent pool are you going to get now on quality for companies, right? And you can't build a so many companies on AI, right? You need physical people.
Of
Though
course. Yeah.
I'm a strong believer. People who use ChatGPT, Mid Journey for
Yeah.
the next 18 years, even in FMCG, may it be packaging innovation,
Yeah.
will be the winners for tomorrow. So it's very tricky,
But you still need
but
people who can do those prompts properly, right? I mean, AI will respond to
But I'm
any
just
good
saying, but
prompt.
look at those
Yeah.
prompts. What amazing, amazing
Yeah.
outputs they give you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Incredible, right?
Yeah. You start.
I'm
You
just
start here.
saying.
You don't start here.
I'm just saying that the question of talent is right.
Yeah.
We're going back to a bootstrap level where we were in 2015 or 2016 with no talent in this company. Now with talent, and with knowing that the talent of the new Gen Z is what you're getting on board, which is
Yeah.
a pillar of a FMCG company,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very important. It's going to be a very critical time, and that's the reason I say it's not isolated only to tech. It is going to be across the board.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting perspective. As an investor, Manish, you're also an investor, right? So, as an investor and have been through that journey, right? Uh, what do you look for in founders? Do you invest on founders? Do you invest on idea? What do you look for when you put your money?
So I think the stage where we invest or I get it, it's only the founder. Yeah? There's nothing else other than that. And that is something what we all doing. Yeah? We're not all going with heavy checks that we really need to do diligence, understand. So one is founder for sure. And at our end, I don't like to give. This is not a world where you can give gyan, but wherever gyan is needed, help is required, we show up.
Yeah.
But I think it's very, at least at our stage, I've not done anything beyond the seed or slightly startup kind of mode companies. But that's where it is for me. But I think founder is the only one. Remember, a founder's journey is lonely.
Yeah.
Second is a founder has to climb his own mountain. So you
Yeah.
can give whatever you want. He has to do it himself.
Yeah. But one learning from your own founder VC relationship that you'd like to change.
My current situation of my
Yeah. In
investors.
general, yeah. I mean, something that you learned from that relationship that you'd like
No,
to change
I've
in your relationship.
so I think I've learned one thing. All businesses has challenges and ups and downs. Seasoned investors I've seen always being empathy, having understanding,
Hmm.
being supportive. That's something what we are blessed with, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think sometimes as founders, though we give a small check, yeah, if things are not working, you'll curse that founder. I
Hmm.
think those things are changing for all. At least for me, I take that as a thing that you took a bet, didn't go well. That doesn't mean the founder is bad. I think that's something what we have also reflected with couple of quarters, if at all things have not gone our way, on the support system you give. So I think we are all maturing as individuals. Even investors
Yeah.
are. Remember, private equity came into this country only 20 years back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before that, there was
Yeah.
no money like this. It was only
Yeah.
IPO roads, right? So
Yeah. Or banks.
even 20 years for that is for an investor and a founder to learn that
Yeah.
journey is not crossed, right?
Yeah.
You're still in a wow 10 years more mode for all these guys,
Yeah.
right? So I think it's something new to the Indian entrepreneur ecosystem, but I think it's learning for me. I
Yeah.
understand how professionally investors manage, talk. I think these are some amazing learnings what I have learned, and I think I'm not looking at retire. I'm looking at building this for long. But
Yeah.
being an investor is an easy money if things go well. But these are some things which I like to, if at all, are given a chance to have those kind of trades in future.
Yeah. And what advice would you give young entrepreneurs wanting to join startup in broad and startup in your segment? Would you say stay away from beauty skincare, too loaded already, or what advice would you give?
See, I know this country as well as consumers needs innovation, new brands.
Yeah,
When we started there, and this is the, I wouldn't like to say OGs, we are the OGs like Aman, Boat, myself. We were the first guys who were digital brands.
yeah,
Today, there are 4,300 brands over the last three years. There are 37,000 brands on Amazon and beauty.
yeah,
We're all fighting for that one customer.
yeah,
So, whichever, and I'll tell you one thing, and I'm going to be honest, rule breakers like us. So, remember, we are rule breakers. We did different to what the other trade. Now we are becoming rule followers.
yeah,
And now rule breakers are being challenged. So, I think very important is continue to have a reason to exist. Why should a consumer buy you should be more sharper? Because there are 4,600 DTs and new brands. Why should a consumer buy you? And unfortunately, a talent is getting the story of being a talent who could bootstrap and make something large is now becoming who's got more money and who can muscle you out.
yeah.
Which
Because
is so wrong.
discoverability, right? Discovery is the
Which is
biggest
so
issue.
wrong.
Yeah,
Which is so wrong.
yeah,
So it's an interesting time. I hope it's not a bubble. And I hope it's great for Indian consumers. But we have to also remember like how brands in the West are, right? It's a consolidated, strong
yeah,
X amount of brands. And I think that process is still, we are not around that. We're still around, it's very easy to open a skincare brand and say, you know what, I'll make make the 1 or 2 crores for me in a year. Why do I go do a job?
yeah,
The barrier to entry is easier.
yeah,
So I think those kind of mindsets of go to granularity, I'm encouraging, come and get into skin hair, come into this category. It's a very exciting category, but come to it with some story which is different, innovation which is different. Otherwise, you'll be lost in this crowd. It's unfortunately a who's got more money game and being consumer first, right? सब लोग बोलते हैं customer भगवान है, right? We all believed in it, but unfortunately, it's all flipping the other way around. Who can grow faster? Who can do that?
yeah,
So that's something which will need recalibration over time.
yeah.
But it's a great spot. I think this decade is going to be Indian consumers and going to be a nightmare for Indian founders, consumer founders.
Yeah, but do you feel that the future is more in bold niches like say the whole Winnie strategy, right? 60 crore, 100 crore, 5 brands and a portfolio versus one large broad stroke brand. Is that where we are headed?
See, we could have also done roll ups. We
Yeah,
could have done also a lot.
yeah,
I like to do one thing and make one thing large, whether I fail at it or I make it big. But we'll be relentless in chasing that. So I'm in that camp of doing one thing and doing it big. Though we also have distractions. We have other 4 chota brands which we are doing. We'll continue to do that because you don't know, one of them can spark and then you invest in it. So
yeah.
the trial and failure continues, but continue to build one thing and make it large is something which is there. But it's not going to be easy road. You're going to fail, try, fall. It's a part of the process.
Yeah. So coming to that, Manish, what's your mantra or what's your way of coping with failure? I mean, you've had a quite a roller coaster career. You've bounced back, and you're going strong. How do you navigate failure? How would you advise other people to navigate failure?
Going strong doesn't mean I won't go through that phase again, right? So, one thing very important is I don't celebrate my victories and I don't even bother about my failures because they are part and parcel. So I navigate myself in that. See, failure is very important if you ask me, right? And I have to be honest, we fail. And sometimes it looks awful also when you do things which don't come out right. But as a founder, you have to continue to take risks, and we are risk takers. If it does well, people will applaud you. If
Yeah,
it doesn't, then you have to go back to the drawing board. Be humble. I think first thing is be humble. Be honest. I've learned these are, if you ask me what is my learning, failure is a part of the process. You will fail. Whether you like it or not, there will be a part of life, things will not go according. What you take out of that is very critical. For me, one big thing was being honest. When my first failure, I lied about it. I lied about it with my parents, with my colleagues. I said, you know what? Why do they care? I'll handle it myself. I went into a rabbit hole much, much more deeper. I think post that I've had 2, 3 other failures. Right? We are getting into a path which is a very interesting path for Indian new age companies where profitability is key.
Yeah.
So with the X amount of capital you do, so I think to avoid failure and to have that, we are also course correcting today. One thing I've learned, one thing is be humble, be honest, and that is something what I like to do, and give it your all your best. What is going to happen is going to happen, but what is under your control? Under your control is to be more transparent, honest, doing right for what is the situation required. These are something which is my learnings. 2007 when I went bust, sorry, 2009 when I went bust, I lied at home. My parents got to know months before I went bust. If I had gone a year or year and a half back saying, you know what, I'm going to be in this trouble, I need help, the situation would have been different. So I think these are learning. Failure is very important to be a part. If you're not failed, you're not going to make it. I can tell you that. I'm not forcing you guys to be failed. There are some individuals, who have a flat line in their life. My line is always like this because as an individual, I'll continue to take chances.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way you can make something large, right? But failure also puts you into a position where you get scared. Your risk ability taking is zero.
Yeah.
You lose self belief.
Yeah.
So in those positions you recalibrate and say, you know what, I'll start going back to basic. I'll start giving small targets for myself. I'll rebuild back from there. So I think failure is important. Keep it simple. Don't celebrate your victories. And don't get bothered by your failures. Yeah, I don't say don't bother about your failures. It shouldn't affect you.
Yeah.
You should, as an entrepreneur, you should be expecting anything. Whether you will make it a 6 or you will be out on the first ball. So I think as an entrepreneur, you should be ready for anything and anything. Nothing will go according to the plans what you made in Excel. Sometimes you with a great idea, you still don't make it well. And I can tell you that it's happened to me over the last 18, 24 months. But then it's a quick learning. So there's an old saying, fail fast, fix fast. And that's something what we do. Unfortunately, when you become large, they fail fast, fix fast doesn't move fast because you got an organization.
Yeah.
You have to back your teammate. Your teammate might be going through a tough time in his. So now is a role of remember your colleagues' failures could pass on to your failures. How do you support that failure system? So it's very interesting. And I can tell you one thing, though where we have reached today, and I can continue telling you that we are not yet a brand. We are a brand in the process. My urge is to even brands at our size and our space is that don't take it in your head that it's in a brand yet. You are fighting brands who have existed for 100 years. And a lot of good brands have gone to near death situations 4 to 5 times till the time they are here. Right? Look at the worlds of Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Dior. They've immaculate stories, right?
Yeah.
These are some things which are there, and you have to expect it. So I've kept it in my mind that me being an entrepreneur, I'm going to have these many bad cycles, and what am I going to do in those cycles, and how fast I'm going to be reacting in those cycles.
But the aspect of not celebrating victories, isn't that really hard on yourself and on the culture?
I've learned it. So I have a saying of prosper in silence. But there's a old saying of die in silence also, right?
Yeah.
So how do you balance that? It's a tricky situation.
Yeah.
See, but as individuals like us, we are creators. We like to be positive. As an entrepreneur, you have no other option than being positive, right?
You have to bounce
and
back.
optimistic,
You have to bounce back.
and you have to be
Every day.
optimistic also. You have to be optimistic,
Yeah.
right? Right. So these are learning. So celebrating is, if you ask me, I don't get kicks, right? This is going to be one of our better months in the last 24 months as an organization. I'm not celebrating it because I kept my target that I reach at the X. That's when you celebrate it. But that's also because you need to be very balanced and see, I wouldn't say we are seasoned to see failures and you look foolish when you're celebrating from where it is. It's a long journey. Right? It's very, what goes up fast comes down faster, right? So, and we've done it all, Dheeraj. It's not like hum doodh ke dule hain and,
Correct.
and we have done it all.
We've all been through this,
Yeah. So, it's embarrassing, that guy celebrated and he was on a high horse last year. Look at where it is. So you rise in silence.
Yeah.
You recalibrate with your downs also with silence. So it gives you more opportunity to recalibrate, to bounce back. Right? Some people, where you celebrate your victories too much, you don't know what you're going to do when you're down, right? And that's when it's a mindset issue. So
Yeah.
it's very easy for me to come and tell you on this call, but I can tell you that this goes through our mind
That's amazing. That's
many, many
amazing.
times.
That's amazing. Such a fantastic conversation, Manish, right? Straight from the heart and so insightful, right? And at this point in time in the podcast, we switch the mic, Manish, where you get to grill me back, and you get to ask your set of questions in the rapid fire.
Right. So, a good question for you. Niche versus mass. What market would you prefer for a brand to exist on?
So I'm a scale guy, right? I love scale. I love India for size and scale. I would never play niche. And as we discuss in today's call, I mean, what we call mass is at best 50 million either which ways. So for me, that's the play. I mean, everything we've built is in that game.
Got it. Some rule to attract new age audiences in today's cluttered world.
I would say, and this is what we have to teach a lot of legacy brands, right? Because they are attuned to, having the brand message in every frame, right? But I mean, my point is, no youth today what talks to other you saying, look what an amazing ad these guys have done. Nobody discusses advertising. We were born in a different era. If I was to come to you with a jingle, Manish, I have a jingle, washing powder Nirma, you will throw me out of the room, right? कि ये क्या लेकर के आए हो? So if you have to attract the new age talent, you have to be talking to about them first.
Right.
Be about them first. Be about you later. Very hard from a Kotler marketing perspective, but that's what we all need to learn in today's times.
My mom came and asked me that, when are you making a wow jingle? This is like 3 weeks back. I told mom, I don't think so. This is an era for that.
Yeah.
Right? And I think consumers have shifted. Dheeraj, I'll tell you one thing which is very interesting. We are like a 2015, 2016 brand. And one of a young age influencer reached out to me for a podcast. You know what did he talk about wow and tell me? वो हमारा बचपना का brand है. 2015, 2016. That shows I'm not cool anymore. I'm an old brand. And I was shocked.
Imagine that.
I was just very shocked that 2015, 2016, I can remember 8 years back.
Yeah.
You were talking about I competing with brands who are here for 90, 100 years.
Yeah.
And they are positioning WoW as a,
Yeah.
I won't say old age brand.
Yeah.
जब हम कॉलेज में जाते थे वो वाला brand.
Already.
Look at their short mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think relevance of being cool is the need of the hour.
Yeah. So relevance building from them rather than building from us.
That is something what we are looking at. Even the positioning what we are trying to create with you is because I'm seeing that when we started, and you're a digital era, you get to know what's an age of a consumer of ours. We had 16 to 25 as our major consumer buyers.
Yeah.
And now those consumers over the last 7-8 years have now moved to 23, 24. So their need has gone to something else.
Yes.
Is something which is very important. So see, we will be case studies of highs and lows as a case study couple of decades away, right? So, Dheeraj being a new age brand, I don't have any insight what we might play out to, right? We could be highs and lows. So that's the reason going back again, celebrating is not something what we should do.
Yeah.
How do you balance short-term and long-term goals for your company?
So I'll be controversial on that, right? I focus hugely on short-term, Manish. Hugely on short-term.
I like that. So we're in the Sehwag.
Yeah. So we have a larger North Star and all of that, but my belief is that this whole thing about 5-year plan and the North Star, and I think it's all bullshit, right? Because there is no long term without the short terms, and today's long term is a multiplication of many short terms. Unfortunately, no brand strategy, no business strategy thinking. Eulogize the short term. You say, that leader is too short term oriented. It's a value judgment on that leader.
Correct.
Wrong. Because if you don't know how to succeed in the short term, there is no long term. I'm sorry.
Awesome. Even I think we are all in a power play mode right now.
Yeah.
See, we have to have a vision long term, but I think today's need is short term.
Yeah. See, you don't do silly things.
You have to recalibrate. I think that long. That
Yeah.
long term thing is all ghanta stuff.
I'm saying
I am also on that.
all the work we did for Amazon in 6 years, we scaled them up to 120 million, right? It wouldn't have happened if I thought, oh, what's the long term positioning of Amazon? What am I building,
Correct.
right? Every campaign has to, okay, 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, 50 million. And like you said, what got you the first 10 will not get you the next 20. So to keep
Exactly.
switching your thinking.
What's the most? I love one question. What risks have you taken as a CEO?
So, I mean, I think
And I want to know how, what didn't play out. How did you handle it?
see, many of them. I mean, in our business, everything is a risk, right? But one of the biggest things I did was when we were transforming from a mainline traditional agency to a new age digital agency, right? When I took over Leo Burnett, I wrote on my credentials slide, India's #1 new age agency, and everybody laughed at me that I mean, you're just writing it. I mean, it's a whole lot of bullshit, right? We'll see when you become that, right? And I said I will move the entire 600, 700 Leo Burnett talent base to new age, to digital. And then again, people laugh because everybody wanted to buy a small digital company and maintain that. And I was scared that if I buy a small digital company, which means I have a Leo Burnett traditional and then I have a
Correct.
Leo Burnett digital, which is terrible. So
Right.
the whole idea that I will turn the whole ship to new age was something which everybody laughed at. People said, Dheeraj, no CEO in the world works with 50 direct leaders. You need to have 3 leaders who work with you. So I said, I'm sorry, but I'm going to work my way. That was 6 years back. And today, thankfully, so we fell. I mean, they were protesting, Dheeraj is saying we are digital ready, but we are not ready. Oh my God. All of that. We went through all of that. But at the same time, people also realized I told strategists that you are a strategist in 2023, 2022, and you're saying I don't get new age digital data. I worry about you. I don't worry about myself and my organization. So we've had to work really hard on that, Manish. But I think that was the biggest response. Sometimes I also thought that, oh my God, there are no cases of having done this successfully. And am I really being tughlaq on this?
Any memories of failures or odd situations you've been?
Huge. I mean, there have been situations when we signed up a business and we were not able to deliver because people were reluctant. I mean, clients called me and said, Dheeraj, your agency sends me posts 7 days after briefing, and I can create hashtags, 7 hashtags in one day. I've been in those meetings as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
those are tricky ones.
yeah, and those,
I
those
can
are
imagine. I can imagine your life to ours on a day to day. No, but I think one thing great is, even at new age brands like us, and I told you this case study of a college student telling me, I know वो हमारा बचपना का ad था, brand है.
yeah,
You are seeing how rapid new age is the need of the hour.
yeah,
And our first brief was who understands digital, who
yeah,
understands those consumers is something which is, I think you're in the right path. So,
yeah,
anyways,
yeah.
awesome to be on your call, Dheeraj.
We've also had clients, traditional clients, who said that all this was good, but maybe we feel the other agency can do a better TVC. We've had that. We've
Yeah,
had that.
I hear that same thing that I think your competitor is doing better than you.
Yeah, that
So I
you,
hear
you,
that
you
every
guys
week.
are you guys were too young.
Yeah.
You guys were too young.
Yeah.
We've had that as well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Anyways,
Great.
amazing to be a part of your show.
Super, Manish. Great to have you. Manish's last bit. If there are young people, people listening to this podcast, they want to connect with you, ask you a question. What's the best way to reach out to you?
They can reach out to me on Instagram, LinkedIn, whichever is the easiest. I'll try to answer it back as honestly and quickly back I can. Apologies if I can't connect with you quickly because my LinkedIn is always flooded. But for people asking for agencies coming and asking and pitching. So not that I'm a big celebrity and I'm trying to be pricey, but these are all spam boxes all across. But
Yeah.
I'll give it my best to respond back to you guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Manish, for spending this Saturday morning.
Thank you
Amazing
so much.
conversation.
Thank you so much.